Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And today we're doing our Frankcon 2022 report and awards. These are all of the different games that were played at Frankcon 2022 and those that rose to the top. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. If you aren't familiar with Frankcon, this is a Franklin gaming convention. My name's Mackenzie Franklin, so it started out as a way to bring the Franklin family together. This was a way that we were going to play games and focus on having amazing experiences with games that we knew how to play and knew how to teach. This actually spawned as a response to a negative experience at a larger gaming convention, and seeing that the focus was just on purchasing the new stuff, and then you had to sit there and learn the new rules. You had a lot of line waiting in the different exhibition halls that were there, and it wasn't something that we were that enthralled with, and figured that we could create our own convention, and so far it's been a hit. I have not been back to a larger gaming convention since, but maybe I will in the future. I'll be open to it based on where the channel takes me. Now, that being said, this year is the first time that we branched out from just the Franklin family and also opened it up to the community. Because SideGame LLC is specialized on the game night hosting and ensuring that we're having an awesome experience, was a great time to try it out, and I think that it went really well. So we hosted our gaming convention on Saturday, July 30th, and we had an attendance of 28. And we even have some pictures here. This is a shout out to my friend Ashley who showed up. She took some of the pictures of the Unmatched Tournament that was going on, as well as some of the other games that she had played. So during our live day, we had 26 different games, 23 different games that were played. So 10 that I actually participated in or taught. Those were Unmatched, Crokinole, Caverna, Living Forest, Blood on the Clocktower, Strike, Monikers, Biblios, Ankh, and Wonderland's War. And then we had a bunch of other games that were also being played, taught, some checked out from the library multiple times, and those were Space Base, Quacks of Quedlinburg, Cartographers, Camel Up, Trails, Silver and Gold, Airland and Sea Critters at War, The Game, Face to Face, Survive, Escape from Atlantis, Pastel, Cascadia, So Clover, and Legendary X-Files. But outside of the community day, we also had a total of 24 different titles that were played just within that Franklin family, and those were Crokinole, Keyflower, Capital X2 Generations, Quacks of Quedlinburg, Tokyo Tsukiji Market, Maracaibo, Hallertau, Bullet Heart, Coimbra, Vabank, Camel Up, Blood on the Clocktower, Detective Club, New York Zoo, Living Forest, Blood Rage, High Society, Cockroach Poker, Voliferian, Space Base, Nemesis Lockdown, Coloretto, Ink and Gold, and Macro Micro Crime City. But I want to focus in just on the Frankcon Community Day for a little bit, and then we'll talk about our awards for all of the different games that were played. Now, as I mentioned before, we had 28 different Frankcon community members join us, and it was a lot of fun. And some of the things that we actually did were put on some tournaments as well as gigantic games, and those were for Crokinole, Unmatched, as well as Blood on the Clocktower. Now, the first award that I do want to talk about, though, is actually the Colorado Award, and that goes to Crokinole. This has been a hit. It was always on the table, always being played, and I think this really embodies just the fun of gaming together. You have some excellent moments that occur. You have balancing in the teams. You have camaraderie and just a positive experience in the form of flicking discs. And you can even see me here, me and my wife Ariana, taking on our friends Regan and Kayla, flicking our discs across the board, participating in said Crokinole Tournament. But our winners for the Crokinole Tournament, we had 16 players, 8 teams of 2. The winners were actually my brother and sister-in-law, and this is Jordan and Jessica Franklin. They did a great job, and they had an excellent final bout, and clearly were demanding it, but great job, Jordan and Jessica, for winning that Crokinole Tournament. The other tournament that we had was for Unmatched, and this was really interesting. It was a single elimination tournament where players were going to be able to pick their fighters out and take on each other head-to-head, and it was a really cool lineup. We had Muldoon, we had the Invisible Man, we had Medusa, we had the T-Rex, we had Achilles and Patroclus, and who were the last two? We also had Sun Wukong and one more character. I don't remember the last character, but those were all the different characters that were fighting. And the finals ended up actually being me as Muldoon versus my brother as Achilles and Patroclus. And unfortunately, I was unable to stop him, and my brother ended up winning both of the tournaments, which is insane. So great job, Jordan, winner of Crokinole as well as the Unmatched Tournament. So love that game, and I thought it was really fun. And I think that the tournament system, the way that we had it ran, worked really well. We had a lot of the players just sitting side by side with the different matchups, and I think that it was a great great experience overall. I do think that in the future, when I do run the tournaments for Crokinole as well as Unmatched, I think the most important thing that I learned for this experience is have it at a set time and just run through all the games at once. The way that we were doing it was we wanted to make it so that something was always being played. We only had the one Crokinole board, so we didn't want anybody waiting, but that ended up being a little bit iffy because the times were so different on when the matchups were going to happen, particularly with Crokinole, because you had one player would be waiting their turn, so they join in a game, and then that game would be going on, and we didn't really want to pull them from that, and then someone else would join a game. So it was hard to get the timing right for that. So I think the solution for this in the future is get another Crokinole board for these larger events so that you can have multiple games running, which is why the Unmatched tournament went so smoothly with us sitting side by side. It reminded me a lot of my days when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, where you had just these rows of players and everybody's doing their own thing at their own matchups, but it was just a cool experience to kind of relive that. So I really enjoyed that one. Those were the Unmatched and Crokinole tournaments. Now the next things I want to talk about are the rest of the awards, and we're going to start off with Best Strategy Game, and that goes to Maracaibo. So Maracaibo here is an amazing pirate experience, and the best of games are actually voted on by me, my wife, my brother, and my sister-in-law. So we all talk about it, come together, and decide what really rose to the top this time as just the best experience, and Maracaibo took away that best strategy game. We played with the Uprising expansion, built out the tableau of all these amazing crew members with new abilities, and I gotta say the Uprising expansion is just impressing more and more. There are so many interesting, unique cards, and I'm always seeing new ones. The story with any new mechanisms that are introduced with the tiles, the legacy tiles you put on the board are worth coming back to and exploring, and I'm always excited to play more. So this is a very close game, very fun experience, and of course you got the sea shanties in the back, making it for a wonderful time. And now we move on to the I'm Going to Stab You award, and this goes to Blood on the Clocktower. This is a game that I finally got to play. I had narrated it 3 times, and I'm pretty good at narrating, by the way, so I'm pretty happy about that. But I actually got to play as well, and I think that this game is amazing. This is the best social deduction game. I agree. I agree with the critical consensus here. It has some amazing mechanisms that can only be used with a narrator, and that comes in the form of poisons as well as may, the option may. I think this is amazing because the storyteller's job is to facilitate an incredible game experience, and they're doing so with their knowledge of the way that things work, the social interactions between the people that are playing, as well as the speaking, the actual things that are going on. They understand what things can be conflicting information. They can understand all of these different aspects, and it's a game that's going to get you thinking about it when you're well finished. You'll be dreaming of Blood on the Clocktower, as so many people said they were after the Frankcon was finished. So I'm thrilled that I got to play it, but this is a game where I'm going to have just as much fun being the person holding the book and narrating, because the narrator gets to make tough choices as well. Are they going to give this information? How are they going to play the poison? How are they going to confuse people with the information? I love this experience, and I would be fine if I never got to play this again and just was the narrator for the rest of my life. That would be okay with me, because I do think it's that much of an awesome experience to be the narrator. So I love this. Once again, the standout mechanisms are those maze and those narrator-influenced mechanisms with the poisons or the drunk statuses, but oh my goodness, Blood on the Clocktower is amazing, and I think it will probably never leave the library. So amazing game. That is Blood on the Clocktower. And that brings us to the I'm going to buy a copy of that award, and that is the Quacks of Quedlinburg. Undoubtedly the game that was played the most during the convention, not only by the family, but also by everybody during the community day, and a lot of people went away seeing where they could get a copy of this. Even my brother and his sister picked up a copy of Quacks. A very awesome push your luck game where everybody's playing all the time, and you're feeling very comfortable with the pieces that you're putting into your pot. You're buying them for cool special abilities, trying to create combos, and pushing yourself to get as far as possible without busting. Yes, there's a lot of luck, but that leads to very high highs, and I think that is so wonderful. The catch-up mechanism makes you feel like you are still in it, where sometimes after a certain point, maybe you might not be, but just that feeling of getting a lot of stuff for doing cool effects is a great sensation, and I think Quacks of Quedlinburg does it the most streamlined, the most simply, and it's going to be so approachable for everybody. And this remains to be probably my favorite bag builder. I think it does eke out the new Wonderland's War by just a bit, just because of how approachable it is and how you're always just pulling out stuff and increasing the potency of your bag so frequently. So this is a wonderful game. I love Quacks of Quedlinburg, and I think it definitely earns the I'm buying a copy of that award this year. And our last 2 awards go to the biggest surprise, this first part, it went to Crokinole, but it also went to Nemesis Lockdown. We didn't want to double up on Crokinole, but Crokinole was definitely a hit for pretty much anybody that tried it. And then Nemesis Lockdown was actually a really big hit for people that are a bit more apprehensive about a longer form narrative game. And Nemesis Lockdown, I do want to mention, is a little bit different in the ways of the original Nemesis, where the characters in Nemesis Lockdown are much stronger, but the game is much harder. There's a lot of ways that you can die, so this game really encourages that cooperation. We actually had two different approaches to the game that we played of this, where one pair of two split off and stuck together, and they survived so much longer than the three that went on their own separate ways to try to do their objectives alone. So I think that after playing this game, I think this was my 8th time playing this one, I think that the game itself is very oppressive, but the cards that the characters have are very strong, and I think that this is going to promote that cooperation because you want to keep your friends and allies that are there alive because they have such powerful cards at hand. So I think that the trader objectives are going to be a bit harder in this one, and I'm curious to see the consensus of the community when it comes to Nemesis Lockdown, but I'm very impressed with this one, and I am just so excited to always play more of it. This is another 10 out of 10. These are some incredible games that we played during Frankcon. And the last award goes to the Not Better Than Dune Imperium Award, and this is a direct response to the Spiel des Jahres winner beating out the Dune Imperium board game, and that is Living Forest. So I was very excited to get this. I heard that it is an amazing game. It beat Dune Imperium for the Spiel des Jahres award, so I was very excited to see what this had to offer, and it was okay. So it receives a 6 out of 10 for me. I think it's okay. I don't think I'll ever suggest it, and it's one that is fine to play. And the solo mode is a cool puzzle. It is a little bit challenging, but you can definitely figure out what you need to do. There's different patterns to follow, and the competitive mode, I think, is interesting while lacking the not necessarily inspiration, but the interesting choices that I think are available in other push your luck games, such as Quacks of Clendenberg. The core mechanism of Living Forest has you collecting these cards into your own personal deck, so it's got some deck building in it. When you get the cards, you put them on top, and then you will reveal cards in future turns, and based on the symbols on the cards, it allows you to take actions at varying strengths. So for example, you can buy more cards with the sun, you can put out these fire tokens with the water, and you're trying to avoid getting these black symbols, because if you get 3 of them, you bust. And when you bust in this game, you get to only take 1 action, but if you stop before you bust, you get to take 2 actions. So it kind of sucks when you bust, but you are getting more cards, so the action you're taking is generally going to be stronger. So there's some great choices here when it comes to when to stop, what cards to buy, but all of the cards feel the same. None of them have other special abilities aside from having an increased strength, except for one. There is a white symbol, and those white symbols cancel out the black symbols, so it allows you to go further. And whenever those comes up, just whoever ends up happening to be first usually is just going to snatch them up. So it becomes kind of a non-choice when it comes to the different cards that you're buying. So I thought that it was an okay game, but it's missing that spark that makes it super interesting and exciting. It has some very neat mechanisms that are added. It's got a variable win conditions with 3 different conditions that people are going for, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But overall, I think that there are better nominations, and I think that Dune Imperium is still one of the best games ever. I think that it does deck building in a way more fascinating, interesting way. Definitely more heavier than Living Forest. I do appreciate the approachability of that game, but Dune Imperium's card, the interesting cards and the interesting decisions with those cards on holding or playing them is so fascinating to me. I love the importance of every card that you take in Dune Imperium. It is just super critical that you are thinking thoughtfully about every play, but the way that they do the deck building in a fashion where everybody is shuffling and only taking 1 action at a time, so you're not bogged down with this deck building style, I think it's amazing. So I think this is a great blend of a complicated, interconnected universe theme mechanisms, but in a smooth package with the deck building system and the card play. So I really, really love Dune Imperium, but Living Forest wins our award for the Not Better Than Dune Imperium. So those are all of the games that were played at Frankcon 2022, and I just really want to give a big shout out to all of the Coloradians who came to join us, all the Franklins that came from all over the country to come hang out. This was a wonderful time, and I hope that next year we are able to open it up even larger. Maybe do it on multiple days, put flyers around, and see how big of a convention Frankcon can be. So very excited of how well it went. I'm glad I learned some things, and I think that we're going to be even stronger next year with our gaming presence and just in general. So very happy with this, and I'm excited that I got to share it here with you. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an excellent time gaming for the rest of your summer. SideGame Strong.